Hey, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of May 2nd. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Holtkamp,
Here.
LaRue, here. Moody,
Here.
Odine,
Here.
Prendergast,
Here.
and Woolsey.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have approval of the minutes from the April 5th meeting.
I so move.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, move on to public comments. If there's anybody in the audience who has anything they'd like to talk, now would be the time. Come on up. Otherwise, we'll move on to ordinances. We're gonna close the planning commission hearing and open up a public hearing on the proposal for the creation of TID Incremental District number 19. The proposed boundaries of the district and the proposed project plan for the district, and consideration and possible action on a resolution establishing the boundaries of and approving the project plan for Tax Incremental District number 19. Is there anybody in the audience who has anything like to say about this?
Benjamin Fox, 2529 Powell Avenue, and I just had two questions. Part of the new TID is also in TID 16, and I was just wondering how that, the Milltown TID, how that works, that you have properties in both TIDs. And then the second is, it's very hard to figure out what the tax information on these parcels is now. I was just wondering how it is determined what the current taxes are, since it's sitting on property, which makes it a little confusing as to what you would be owing in taxes. With that, I leave you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Anybody else?
Jeff York, City of River Falls. Quick question. I'm just wondering, in the ordinance that is being written up, why nothing is being said about the termination. There is in the notes saying that it looks like there'll be a 20-year expectation of it, but in the ordinance it doesn't say. Whereas the city's looking at 20 years or whatever, it's kind of open-ended. So that's just a question I have.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll close the public hearing and we're gonna open the planning commission hearing. And first, Carrie will give us a little presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Plan Commissioners. So tonight I will be giving a presentation on the creation of Tax Incremental District, or TID 19, for Man Valley Corporate Park. So the last time I gave a presentation on tax increment financing, or TIF, was in 2021. So just for a refresher, I will briefly cover the basics of tax increment financing. Tax increment financing allows cities to capture incremental property tax revenue from growth in a defined area, a TID, and use that revenue to benefit that area. Since 1976, tax increment financing has been the most powerful and widely used economic development tool in Wisconsin. And some examples of the public improvements constructed because of tax increment financing is the infrastructure in the Sterling Ponds Corporate Park, traffic signalization at South Main Street and East Walnut Street, and the property that was purchased to construct the trail around Lake George. So this graph shows how tax increment financing works. You have the current base value of the property, which is frozen at the time that the TID is created in blue. The adjacent taxing jurisdictions, so the county, the schools, the tech college, continue to receive taxes on that base value. Throughout the years, the city captures the value increment, so in the purple, and that is the money that is used to carry out the projects within half mile of the TID, which are included in the TID plan. Once the TID ends, the increased tax revenue is shared with all of the taxing jurisdictions, and they all start receiving the full property value amount. A key foundation of the TIF program is referred to as the but-for test. So but for the use of tax increment financing, the proposed development would not occur as proposed within the same time frame or with the same level of property value, jobs, or amenities. Now I'll talk about the process for creating a tax increment district. So the creation of a TID has to be approved, has to have the approval from the Joint Review Board, or JRB. This board is made up of representatives from each of the local taxing jurisdictions. And the JRB members for River Falls includes a city representative, a county representative, River Falls School District representative, Chippewa Valley Technical College district representative, and a public representative. The JRB had their first meeting for the proposed TID 19 earlier this morning. Then it moves on to the public hearing of the Plan Commission, which we're currently holding. It will then go to the City Council for their approval. If that happens, it will go back to the JRB for their approval. And then finally, it goes to the state for their approval. So what is the Plan Commission's role in creating a TID? So your role is to hold a public hearing, allowing the public a reasonable opportunity to express their views, review the district boundaries and the draft project plan and determine that they are in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and provide a recommendation to the City Council. So now on to TID 19. So the proposed TID 19 is a mixed-use district comprising of 380.93 acres, or 93 acres, sorry, including the City of River Falls and Gary Moulter property. The goal of the TID is to extend infrastructure to the Man Valley Corporate Park, making it ready for large-scale development. The city works closely with Ellers, public financial advisors, to help create the plan. In staff's view, this boundary is appropriate and reasonable. The comprehensive plan guides the area for corporate park, high-density residential, and mixed use, consistent with the approved concept plan. The proposed TID project plan provides the necessary infrastructure to develop the Man Valley Corporate Park as envisioned in the comprehensive plan. So as we prepare the plan, we look at infrastructure projects within 1/2 mile of the district that are necessary to the project and will enhance the area around the district. The city has identified phase 1 projects, and they include, I'll go through some of this. So the yellow is the 35,000 cubic yards of earthwork, 2.5 miles of sanitary sewer with a wastewater pumping station, 4.5 miles of water main with a pressure reducing station, 3,900 feet of roadway construction, and an approximately 2 miles of utility maintenance and a multi-use path throughout the park. If approved, the construction of phase 1 will start this fall and be completed in October of 2024. Future projects and phase 1 projects are projected to occur throughout the district's life and total $58.6 million. Projects will be approved individually by the City Council after approval of the TID, and they depend on development. These projects include street infrastructure, development incentives, property acquisition, utility infrastructure, trailhead projects, stormwater improvements, streetscaping and landscaping, wayfinding, and administrative costs. After the proposed project list is compiled, Ellers turns to ensuring that the district will cash flow. As the analysis is completed, the city most always tends to the conservative side of the financing projections. For example, the tax rate is held steady throughout the 20-year projection, rather than increasing it throughout the term, which will most likely happen. The base value of the proposed TID 19 is $405,712, and the projected future increment is $55 million over the 20-year life of the TID. So the next steps. As I mentioned, the JRB had their first meeting earlier today. If the Plan Commission approves the enclosed resolution, the plan will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration on May 23rd. And then the JRB has their final consideration set for May 25th. Staff recommends that the creation of Tax Increment District Number 19 be forwarded to the City Council with a favorable recommendation. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. So I'll take a motion on this first.
So I move that we approve the proposed creation of a tax incremental district number 19, proposed boundary of the district, and the proposed project plan for the district in consideration and possible action.
Second. Okay, first and second, questions, comments?
I think I'd like to echo Ben's questions about the overlap of the district boundaries with 16, and then since the property is owned by the city, how do you calculate a tax value since the city doesn't pay taxes?
Yeah, great question. So a few parcels of TID 19, a proposed TID 19 do overlap with the already existing TID 16. And what will happen is those parcels will be absorbed into the new TID 19. And that is allowed by the state. And that is something that if the TID were to be approved through all the steps, we would provide a map to the state to let them know that these parcels are now a part of the new TID 19. And we've looked at it and it will have no adverse effects on TID 16. And then the property value already established of $405,000 is because it's not only city property that's in this TID, it's Gary Moulter, Mr. Moulter's property is a part of the TID as well, and that does have value associated with it.
Thanks.
Carrie, what part of it is in TID 16?
Let me pull back up. So it's hard to see on here because it's the lines are kind of hard to see, but this portion right here, this piece, this pin 2761153050000.
Okay.
I believe that is the only portion that is in TID 16.
And what is the rest of 16? Where does that?
16 then goes down through here and it goes over to where the Milltown residents are, and it doesn't go into DeSanctis, but it goes in that area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I might reveal that I haven't done my homework as much as I should have on this, because the question that came up when I was looking at this is, when you set those boundaries, how is that determined? The study determines that, but I mean, is there flexibility with where those boundaries are? And maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so when the city and when we decide we need to move forward with a TID or propose a TID, we look at usually we do smaller TIDs, right? If it's just for a project or something, right? So like TID 17 is Tattersall and the land behind it. But for our corporate parks, we do with TIDs of the whole corporate boundary. So that way we're able to capture all of that increment. And so in this case, we know that if and when we get infrastructure out here, all of this will hopefully, businesses will be filled. There'll be a lot of new jobs and a lot of new increments. We wanted to make sure we captured the whole corporate park, including Mr. Moulter's property as well, because we have had conversations with him. You can amend a district's boundary. So it's not set for the 20 years. You can't make it smaller, but you can make it larger. So these are just, staff has these conversations with Ellers on what parcels we think will develop and what we think will be best for the TID and over a 20-year period, if that makes sense.
So it's not hard and fast boundaries. It's a guidance plan for those boundaries.
It is hard and fast. So if something were to develop, say right here, which first of all isn't in the city, but say it was, the city wouldn't be grabbing that increment. We couldn't use the increment to then go pay for one of those project plan items that we have within a half-mile boundary.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. So the boundary is set, but it can be changed throughout the 20 years. It can be amended. I don't know if I'm doing a good job.
Well, and
Maybe I'm mixing up, I'm talking about how the pins are set up.
Oh, these are set by the county, correct?
Yep, so what's shown there are existing parcel boundaries, so it's likely going to be replatted. So
Okay.
what we're looking at here with the TID boundary is the outer
Yep.
boundaries.
Okay, now I get
So
that.
now you could have different parcels inside. So if we have a business who comes in and wants 100 acres, we can create a 100-acre parcel for them. If they want 20 acres, we can create a 20-acre parcel. What we're looking at though right now is that within the outer boundaries of the TID, that's where the development and the value is going to be captured to pay for the infrastructure there.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I was doing is looking at the map and then trying to find the text that was going to explain that. And so that helps because I wasn't quite sure about how that would be platted. And I was kind of getting hung up on that. So that's kind of on me. To the question of itemizing the length of time in the resolution, we're kind of going through a process right now, and that could be kind of a sanding the edges of the resolution. The council could do that, or it could even go to the JRB, or is it, because
Yeah.
it's going back to JRB.
Correct, yeah. So the resolution you have in front of us, Ellers, our financial advisor, helped us come up with the wording and everything. If you wanted to add that 20-year into tonight, you absolutely could, but it will go to council and be a part of that resolution as well. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some questions. Could you please explain, it says the proposed blight district. Can you describe what
Oh.
blight means?
I'm sorry, is that in the plan?
Yes,
That
it is.
Okay, well, that is why we still have it as draft, because that
Okay.
is not, I
Okay.
need to look at that. What
So
page is
it's-
that on? 'Cause-
So on the first page under background, it says the proposed blight district
Okay.
would have a 20-year life.
Sorry, this is a mixed use district.
Okay, and then that was my other, just a comment, doing the math. I'm assuming that we're going to keep with the 200 acres for office and light industrial, 10 for high density, 43 for agricultural. And if you add those up, there's 130 acres for open space. So that's a third of it is going to be open space. And we'll stick with these guidelines as far as building. It's not going to be like wall to wall. We will have 1/3. Okay, great. And I do have one thing else on here, and I don't. Oh, it has to do with impervious services, and that's what we're not here there for tonight. And I would like to see us put have the 20 years in here if that's what its length is. It just makes it clearer. But I'll leave that up. So thank you so much.
Is it, may I ask, isn't the 20 years in the plan itself? It's not in the resolution, but it's in the plan.
It is in the
correct?
plan,
Yeah.
correct. It is in the plan.
Yeah, I'm not,
The first paragraph, I think.
yeah.
And the term is set by the state with the type, the term of the TID goes with the type of TID. So it's a mixed use 20-year plan.
If the commission wanted to amend the resolution to add that, I would recommend that under the, I think it's the third whereas, where it details what the content of the project plan is to just add, like, you've got JK, there would be an L, the term of the tax increment district will be 20 years.
Did you say when it goes to the council, it'll have the 20 years in it?
We can make sure it does,
That's
yeah.
fine.
Just
The state dictates it, I guess.
Yeah.
The state dictates it.
The state dictates it, yes.
That should work just fine then. Anything else?
I just have a comment. I appreciated the history of the space because it feels like, Man Valley's been in our back pocket forever. Yeah, it's over 12 years ago is when the city first bought the first piece of property with this very thing in mind. So it's nice to see it finally coming around where we can actually do something about it.
Absolutely.
So thanks for your work on it.
Okay, nothing else then? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thanks, Carrie. Next, move on to Emily. You'll have a little presentation for us on planning updates.
Just a couple of things to let the commission know that, again, related to Man Valley, we had 2 annexations that the commission weighed in on in March, and those have both been approved by council. The annexation that was considered at our April meeting will have a second reading next week at council. That was for the New Life Church up by 35 and 65. We had a great discussion on the electronic sign ordinance at our last meeting, and staff is working on putting those policy directions into ordinance format, and we anticipate bringing that back to the commission at the June meeting. And we're also anticipating applications for the final plat for the South Point First Edition near Comforts of Home and the first phase of the Oak Hill neighborhood, and those would also be on the June agenda. And that's my update.
Does anybody have any questions for Emily?
I have a quick question. The Saturday properties, what's the status of that?
We're expecting them to come back for their specific implementation application in the next couple of months.
Okay, great, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
But don't go anywhere.